my channel. So I want to stress that this isn't a care video as such. That there is the only Paphiopedilum that has bloomed in my care, so I'm not an expert. And all these Paphiopedilums I pretty much got in the last 6 months because I was obsessed with that bloom and I really wanted more. But I thought that, you know, I could make videos of collections of my orchids, and you know, A, we can share care advice on the different plants, and B, I thought it might be fun to sort of share my little orchid journey with you and update you as things happen. I like to think of my paphs as either multiflorals or single flowered types, and we'll go through my multiflorals first, and I'll put little sort of pictures, thumbnails up the top to give you examples of what the flowers will eventually hopefully look like. So this is paph angel hair. It's a cross between paph sanderianum, which is a species, and paph St. Swithin, which is then a cross between Philippinense and Rothschildianum. It's a really slow grower, and I know paphs grow slowly, but this plant grows exceptionally slowly, and I think I got it in early June. It's now mid-August and it's grown like a centimetre on that leaf. So this is still obviously a seedling, and at this rate it's going to be years and years before I see any excitement at all on this orchid. So this is the beautiful paph Gloria Norgal, and it is a cross between Rothschildianum and Micranthum. And Micranthum is actually a single flowered type from the Paphiopedilum section, and it's got these tessellated leaves which have come out in this plant, and you can see how beautiful it is. I really love these leaves, and you can see the patterns like a sort of netting. It's really pretty, so even if it doesn't flower, at least it's got pretty leaves. But it better flower because I paid a lot of money for it. You can see it's got a couple of little leaves coming out there, and I just noticed yesterday that it's got a new growth. But I really can't wait to see the flowers. I'll put a little picture up here for you. They just look amazing. And the Paphiopedilum section, the flowers have these big round pouches. So when you cross them, that's the sort of feature that they keep, those really unique pouches. I have read in orchid forums that this orchid has been notoriously difficult to flower previously, but newer hybrids, I think they've changed around the pollen parent or something like that, and apparently they're not as challenging now. Anyhow, this plant is very near flowering size, I would think. So exciting times. Hopefully it'll bloom in the next year. Here we've got paph Dolgoldii, which is also a Rothschildianum cross with an Armeniacum, which is also in the Paphiopedilum group, so it should still have those big pouches, but it's a big yellow flower, which I'll put up in the corner there. It's also got some tessellated leaves, but not as pronounced as the Gloria Norgal. Still quite pretty. Slightly smaller plant, and it's got 2 new growths there. So yes, very excited for these. I think this should be near blooming size as well. So next we've got 2 very recent seedlings that I got actually in my last little orchid haul. There's a video on it, but this is paph Memoria Joan Levy, which is a cross between Gigantifolium and Stoney Eye. And this one is paph Lowii. Also, I think it's from a different section, but still a multifloral. And I got this one for free. So yeah, these guys won't be doing anything anytime soon, and if they grow as slow as the other multiflorals, then I'll check in on them in a few years, I guess. Next we've got 2 Paphiopedilum philippinensis. This one is variation Robelenii, and I'm not entirely sure of the difference, but paph philippinensis is a really beautiful multifloral type, and I think all the flowers sort of open up at once. This one's grown a little bit since I got it a few months ago. 2 growths. This one's a little bit smaller, but the middle leaves have grown. This one, on the other hand, has done almost nothing since I got it. Unfortunately, it did have a growth here, but it had some rot in it, and I had to pull one of the leaves off. You can see the base is sort of rotten there, but it's got this new growth here, and the only thing I've noticed that's grown is like that little leaf in there, so it really hasn't done very much, and I don't know if that's a variation of this type or because it came bare root, so I don't know if it just was a little bit stressed and hasn't done anything. So in general, the multifloral types are larger. You can see that they're quite big plants. In terms of care, they're a little bit different from the single flowered ones. They are still semi-terrestrials, but they can also be lithophytic, and they can be found in like the nooks of limestone cliff faces, like on the rock surfaces. So they do tend to be exposed somewhat. They like brighter light, cooler and drier winters as well, and they like lots of air movement and a variation in day-night temperature, which is called like a diurnal temperature variation. So for me, these guys are kept on my deck, on that shelf there, which is empty. That blind is usually down when I'm not home, but they do get a lot of sun till about 11 AM. So they do get quite bright light, and I don't have any leaf damage yet. I guess there was a little spot on one of them, but really they can tolerate quite bright light, and I think you need it to get them to flower. In winter, they like a temperature drop, and in general, compared to like the Mordier types, they do like intermediate temperatures. So in winter they like to drop down to about 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, which is like 50 to 60 Fahrenheit-ish. But I do think the multifloral types like it somewhat brighter, and they like a bit of a winter chill. So now we're going to talk about my single flowered types, and by single flowered, sometimes I think they can also flower in pairs. So these are my Mordiers, and I've got 4 plants. This is paph redshift times, you can read that. Anyway, it's a complex hybrid, a red Mordier, and it's actually, there's 2 plants in here. They're both just single growths, but it's been growing really well for me. It's got really healthy, beautiful looking leaves, and I must say it grows a whole lot quicker than the paphs that have preceded it on this video. So it actually grows at a decent speed. This is paph ying green coral. It's also growing very well for me. Nice leaves. It's another complex hybrid Mordier type, but it's an alba version, so it's got green and white flowers. It's got 2 growths there, beautiful mottled leaves as well. It's got a leaf coming out there and a little leaf coming out there. This is the paph, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Sucaculii. Also another barbatum type. And this little guy is Paph Tristar Marbo, which I got for free as a bonus plant. It grows a bit slower than the others, but I do seem to remember it only having like one root when I got it. These guys are warm growing terrestrial types, so they also prefer shady conditions, so they like lower light and lots of moisture year round. So I keep these guys moist all the time. I don't ever let them dry out. But also I think they just generally tend to be less fussy and faster growers than the green-leafed types. I don't think any of these are quite flowering size, but hopefully this guy should flower in the next year or two. Here we've got my paphiopedilums, and I've got one brachypedilum type. The paphiopedilums, if you remember, have the big pouches, and this is paphiopedilum. I do believe it's a naturally smaller plant, so hopefully it's near flowering size. It's got very beautiful leaf patterning as well, mottled or tessellated, but darker green and slightly firmer leaf, and it's got really beautiful purple underside to it. This one is Paphiopedilum vietnamense times paphiopedilum, so bigger plant, but hopefully also nearing flowering size. It has gorgeous foliage, really pretty patterning, like a net or web sort of patterning. Also dark undersides. So this is my only brachypedilum type, and it's a little seedling, Paph asteroid times James Bacon, and it's growing a new leaf in there. Similar patterning to the paphiopedilums. The flowers are different though. It's got a small flower, and it looks like an egg in a nest, I think it's described as. So it's got a small egg-shaped pouch, which looks like it's sort of resting in a little basket or nest. In terms of care though, I group these guys together because I basically give them the same care. But having said that, they live with my Mortier types. They are also lower light plants, and they like warm temperatures, but their winter care, I think, is a little bit different. They like a little bit of a cooler winter temperature, and they also like to dry a little bit between waterings, I've read. So I just let them approach dryness between waterings during winter, but basically they're still kept with my Mortier types. So lastly we have the insigne types. I think I'm saying that right. This is a no ID Paphiopedilum. I don't know what it is, but I do believe it is a insigne type, just by the look of the flower and the look of the plant itself. But generally they are strap-leafed, green, green-leafed, not mottled types. But we'll just run through these guys. This is a, I'll just move you out of the way. This is a Paph spiceranium. There's two plants in here. Both of them have growths, second growths in there. Next we've got a freebie, Frank Pierce times Paph Yi Ying Flamingo Mountain, and it has done almost nothing since I got it. And this is Paphiopedilum henryanum, which also I've not noticed much change at all, so also very slow to grow, but it has flowered before, once before, and it's got this new growth here. Now, these insigne types I think are considered a bit difficult to grow and flower, especially for the beginner. but I'm gonna give it a shot anyway, why not? They're generally cooler growing, and I think some can even tolerate like near freezing temps. They like bright light and cool temperatures, so I'm not sure how I'm going to go keeping them in our Australian summers, but you guys can definitely come along for the ride, and we'll see how we go. They are kept on the same shelf as my multifloral types, and they get the same care really as those guys. So now I'm just going to share with you briefly the care that I give these orchids. So firstly, people often suggest that these guys need really pure water, but I just give them tap water, and I fertilise them with my other orchids. They are slower growing, so it would make sense to give them less fertiliser, but I just can't be bothered like separating waterings and stuff like that. So these guys get the same watering as my other plants. I do figure though that a lot of them like calcium, so I mean my tap water I think has a bunch of calcium in it. Along with that, I give some of them this top dressing, so pretty much all the ones that I've shown you except for the Mortier types, they can be found in these limestone rich areas. So this has some calcium and magnesium in it, so they get a little bit of a top dressing of this stuff. And yeah, basically in the warmer temperatures I keep them all evenly moist, and then in winter I let all of them except the Mortiers just approach dryness between waterings. But yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I want to know your experiences. If you have any of these plants, let me know how you look after them. If you care for yours a certain way and you've had success with it, please let me know as well. So guys, if you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel, and give me a thumbs up if you liked it. If you thought it was really shit, give me a thumbs down. Comments all welcome. I'd love to know what you thought of this type of video as well. So enjoy your day, have fun on your orchid journey, and I'll see you next time.